Well, hey everybody, this is Chris Buteau and Cole Buteau, and we have the privilege today of speaking with Jordan Clemans of Story Real Estate. Jordan, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, oh yeah, you bet. And perhaps in a nod to the wisdom of your branding here, we always want to start with story, right?
Yep.
So that's really where we want to start today. Is just tell us a little bit about your story. I can read your bio.
Yeah.
and you get you get a little bit of that where
Yep.
kind of where you grew up and but tell us how you where you grew up, how you got here.
Yeah.
And whatever else is you think would be important to know.
Yeah, I'll start with essentially my bio and maybe stretch out from
that's
there.
great. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So I grew up in the Seattle area. Always had a knack for sales to some degree. And I did some high-end retail sales at Nordstrom.
Yeah. Okay.
Briefly.
So what were you selling?
I was selling shoes, kids' shoes.
It's so funny.
Yep.
All the great salespeople I know started in shoes. I mean,
Yeah.
many, not many of them.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is. Why is that? Why is it shoes?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the guys.
Yeah.
The girls don't necessarily start in shoes.
Yeah.
But.
Well, I was talking to we have a shoe store just downtown here.
Yeah.
I was talking to that guy about. He said the same thing exactly.
Yeah.
I think part of it is being passionate about something that not everyone's passionate about.
Yeah.
And being willing to be excited about it,
Right.
and connecting with people that way. But
That's awesome.
Fun. So started there. Decided I didn't want to do sales at that point. Was like, no way. Everyone says I should do it, but there's no way I'm doing it. Commission based did not sound fun to me.
Yeah.
The work environment wasn't great. So decided not to do that. Then went into video editing. So came out to Moscow for New St. Andrews College. Improved my communication skills through that. Critical thinking. Did some college marketing at that point, and then realized I'm way too social to be behind a computer all day. And then started talking to Chris, who started Story Real Estate. And at that point, he eliminated all my concerns of the work environment not being there, not thinking for a larger purpose as far as sales go. And then I joined the team and just been rocking and rolling since.
Yeah, that's cool. So tell me about the larger purpose. What does that mean to you?
Yeah. So at Story Real Estate, our mantra is helping others build legacies. That's what we're going for.
Yeah.
So a home is, and this is part of why we're called Story, a home is an integral part of someone's life. And it happens in a big transitional moment. It could be a good thing, like starting a family, moving up, retiring, or it could be a death in the family, something more serious. And so to enter in somebody's story in that way and play that role of helping them into their next home is a real honor. It's more than just doing a 15-minute sale, selling a pair of shoes, which can be big. It can have an impact on them, but it's a different level when you get to build a relationship with someone and help them with that. So,
well, that's cool. This might be kind of corny, but I think of Miranda Lambert's song, "The House That Made Me," "The House That Built Me." You ever heard that song? It kind of reminds me of what but it's so true. I mean, that really touches on the idea that in a big way, the physical environment that you grow up in has a lot to do with making you who you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's pretty cool that you guys have tapped into that early.
Yeah.
And you said college marketing, NSA?
Yep.
So marketing NSA.
Yeah.
To potential students.
Yep, exactly. So I'd coordinate videos, I'd record podcasts, I'd do all of that and edit it behind the computer. So
cool.
Yeah.
Very, very, very fun. And so graduated from college, and what was your first job?
This
was it.
Yep. So I kind of starting commission based in the real estate world. You've got some time before you get that first check.
Yeah.
So I did media for Story part time as I eased into it because I had that skill set. So started right afterwards.
That's great. Cole had a little bit similar experience. I mean, it was I had the same. When I got into mortgage, same thing. By the time I got into mortgage, I had 3 kids. I was a CPA. Getting paid the salary. And making this move into this commission-based, and the same privilege was offered to me to, hey, we'll give you a salary for a certain amount of time.
Yep.
And that's really vital, when you're, and of course, when you're right out of college, maybe, you don't need as much of a lifeline.
Yeah.
Because if you fail, you can move to the next thing, but Cole, kind of talk about your intro into the mortgage side. You got to come in with a little bit of a, commission and salary base and.
Yeah, definitely needed. For most 100% commission gigs, you definitely need some sort of intermediary salary to keep the lights on while you're trying to build up to 100% commission. And yeah, it was the same thing with me. People always told me that I should go into sales, and because I'm good with connecting with people, and I like people, and I like connecting with people. But my only experience with sales was cold calling realtors.
Yeah.
And I just
Sorry.
yeah. Well, I'm sorry. It's and I learned some good things from that, but that is not what I wanted to do, and I didn't think I could make a significant living just cold calling people. I do think it helps sometimes, but I wanted something different. And then Dad convinced me a couple years ago that sales was more than just cold calling realtors.
Yeah.
So I've loved it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and one of the big things with starting out having that lifeline is a lot of times people can, well, let me back up. One of the biggest fears I had starting was having what we call commission breath. Commission breath.
I know the phrase.
I need to make this sale, so you better like this house. And no, don't look at that. Don't look at the foundation. We're just buying it because I need to pay rent this month.
Yeah.
And that's was my greatest fear. I do not want to have to make a sale and get someone into a home for the rest of their lives. That's not the right fit for them.
Right.
And to feel any kind of pressure. Right. So having a lifeline like that base salary is so important because it helps you serve people at another level and know that's not even in the back of your mind and your subconscious.
Right.
You're good to go. So. Yeah.
No, that's great. So what's your role now with you started out like you said you had and it sounded like maybe that was more or less always kind of from the beginning just a way to kind of transition you into more full-time sales. This gave you something very useful and meaningful to do here and contribute and get a salary or a stipend at a time. But what's your role now? And tell us a little bit about how that transitioned.
Yeah. So less than a year. I was in the marketing role less than a year, and it was only about 10 hours a week. So it was very, very minimal. I was still doing the real estate side of things. Dropped out of that as soon as I could without having commission break. And then was full-time as a buyer's agent. So our team is split out so that our agents are either solely working with buyers looking to purchase homes or solely working with sellers looking to sell their home. So just more specialization there. So I did that as a buyer specialist. And then about a year ago transitioned into the team lead role for the buyer's agent team.
Side.
Yep. So now I'm training, recruiting, and developing those agents while helping people find homes as well. So
that's great. So what does developing look like in your weekly role with these buyers agents that you're training? And developing.
Yeah, I'd say it's twofold. One is the client experience, helping them build their legacies as far as the buyers looking to purchase homes.
Yeah.
So how can we offer them a better, smoother experience in this market that we're in? It's not like we can go looking for listings and get an easy sale.
Right.
We're just working with buyers. So how can we serve them best? So that's one side, helping them build their legacies. The second thing would be personal development for the agents themselves. Agents are known for having busy lives, crazy lives, they're always on their phone, they're always getting up and leaving, and we want to make sure that lifestyle of the agents are positive as well. So helping them build their legacies is a second piece of that development. So
very cool. How do you do that? Just as a mortgage guy, same thing, right?
Yeah.
You always oh, sorry, I got to take this call.
Yeah.
How do you do that? It's I was in public accounting for a long time, and there were certain I saw a lot of businesses, a lot of business owners, and I saw a lot of guys that were married to their jobs, and to the exclusion of a lot else, and I always felt like it was more about the guy than the job. But so what do you impart to your agents to say, hey, this is how you manage that aspect?
Yeah. It takes a huge level of intentionality. Yeah. So you have two choices. You can either let your business run you or you can run your business, one or the other. And so you have to make that decision, and in order to stay true to that, you need to have a core why behind everything that you do.
Right.
And for us, that's helping others build legacies on a broad level, and then each of the agents have something very specific that applies to their life. And none of them include working 80 hours a week. Yeah. That's the core motive for their life. Yeah. And so whenever they feel that push, especially in the busier season, which is where we're at now, it's like, okay, one of my agents, their goal is to create stability for themselves and the people around them.
Yeah.
And being on your phone all day is not creating stability for your family.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like, okay, you have a choice right now. You can take this appointment at 8 p.m. or you can be with your family.
Yeah.
Which one are you going to choose? And if you bring it back to the why, that's strong enough to, run your business and not the other way around.
Direct the activities. That's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're always on your phone and never showing your family attention, then that can create very unstable, insecure people around you.
Yeah.
So that's a great goal from that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, we're trying not to add to the statistics right now. 80-90% of agents drop out before they hit 3 years.
Yeah.
And I'd say that's largely they see the financial freedom possibilities, they see the time freedom possibilities, and they grasp for the time freedom before the financial, or they get so run into it that they don't have any time freedom, right?
Yeah.
And so we're trying to keep that
Just keep
balance.
ground out. No, that's
How do you recruit? What's your approach to? Are you just keeping an eye out for quality people, or are you just getting the word out and seeing who bites? What's your approach?
We are very particular about who we hire. Because we do function as a team, so we're all lead genning together in the same room. We're sharing our strategies with each other. It's very different than a traditional individual agent brokerage. So we need to really trust everyone we have. So our interview process usually takes 10 to 15 hours before we bring. That's sitting down in conversation with them. So we're really intentional. We're looking for people who are excited about the job, have a big why, and it can't just be money, right? Yeah. And then and they're also willing to learn and willing to be humble through that process. So
that's funny you mentioned that about that trust aspect. I remember that was one of my kind of first real eye openers when I first got into the mortgage business. We had a real estate office right next to one of the big national brands, and I remember I made a connection with an agent, went into her office to talk to her. And when she was talking about a deal she lowered her voice to a whisper. And I was like shocked. I mean, it really took me aback. It was like, wow, she's in an environment where she so distrusts everybody around her that she has to whisper about her transaction for fear of, obviously, losing the deal, I guess.
Yeah.
It just made me sad, to think, oh, that must be a horrible environment to work in. So obviously that's a real thing. That's a real thing, and you need to be so cool.
Yeah,
good. That's a great aspect. So what are some of the challenges about what you do? What are your challenges on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, specifically on the buyer, like serving client side, or in the agent role, or
just your whole role.
Okay.
Your whole role, whether it be training, developing, selling.
I'll take each of those. I mean, the obvious one right now for buyers is low inventory. So we're having to get pretty creative with how we find deals, how we service buyers. Agents are at the point, broadly speaking, nationally, where they're turning away buyers because they just don't have the capacity to serve them anymore. And so building out systems where our agents have freedom and they're able to serve a large number of buyers at a very high standard is a big part of what I do. So that's been a real challenge to find those deals, keep buyers encouraged, and connect with them and serve them at a high level.
Did I hear that you guys were checking Craigslist for listing? Or do you check Craigslist? Do you find listings on Craigslist?
Absolutely. Yep. No, there's Craigslist, Zillow, stuff listed by agents. Every morning we spend 2 to 3 hours, each agent in the office, calling homeowners and buyers trying to get connected to houses. So we do that 10 hours. So let's see, it's 50 to 60 hours on the phone a week.
Wow.
That just to find these deals for our clients.
Yeah.
So that's a huge focus for us right now.
So how are you deciding who to call?
So we have a huge database of people that we've built up over the last couple of years. So we've often connected with a lot of them, and we're reconnecting. Or we'll just call neighborhoods that are in high demand.
Attractive.
So, Hey, your neighbor's home just sold for $200,000 more than you bought your home for. Like, is that helpful to have that cash? Do you want to know what your home is worth? And just take the conversation from there.
That's great.
So,
So that's it's good. That makes a lot of sense because the pipeline of buyers is going to be much larger than normal. That you're having to serve at a high level, like you talk about, because because it's not the typical 60-day sales cycle or 90-day sales cycle. It could be a 6-month sales cycle.
Oh yeah,
you know?
Easy.
And so you accumulate all those buyers in there, and you've got to keep the touch points going and keep them motivated. So yeah, I could understand that.
Yeah, and a big piece of that, it can be discouraging to look at home after home after home after home. And so we sit down with every buyer and have a 1-hour consultation with them and get down to what they're looking for. Not bedrooms and baths, but why do you want 3 bedrooms? Why do you want 2 baths? What does a yard mean to you? So that we know exactly what they're looking for. So on average, our buyers look at 3 homes before finding the right one. Even in this market, and
Which
if they don't, we meet up with them again.
That's pretty low.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty good.
Yep.
Speaks highly to you guys.
Yeah. We don't want them to see a home that's a waste of their time. So we'll say, hey, this yard is smaller than the last one we saw. Do you still want to see it? Oh, no, we don't. That's a deal breaker. So
no,
that's helpful.
That's cool. I never would have thought of that, but that makes a lot of sense because that gives you guys the broadest possible funnel of homes.
Right.
When you have a more refined understanding of why they, not just their gut reaction of, I want 3-bed, 2-bath.
Yep.
I want a yard for the kids or the dog or whatever.
Exactly. So, and we'll see that home on Craigslist, and Samantha pops in my mind right away.
Yeah.
It's like, this is perfect for her, and she's on the phone in a second.
Yeah.
Because it's been an intentional conversation. Yeah. So, yep.
So, what's one thing that consumers of your services should hear? What's something that you want them to know or wish they knew or?
Yeah, it's really hard to communicate because people think I'm just being a salesperson, but regardless of where you're at in the country, you don't have to be in my market, but connecting with a real estate agent sooner rather than later. Because they can connect you with great mortgage lenders. Yeah. They can connect you with financial advisors. Our goal is to be a resource, so I've sat down and had that consultation with people 6 years out from buying. And that's like that. And if you have the right agent, they'll be excited to do that and happy to do that.
Yeah.
And so I'd say, hey, if you're just planning, connect with an agent. Find out what that process looks like. I did that with someone just this last year. They were 5 years out from buying, met with them, and then 6 months later they had a huge promotion, and they were able to buy. And they knew they could buy because of the conversation we had. Yeah. And then, now they're in a home.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
It's just good to start planning early, get connected with someone you trust.
And I'm sure, like you said, one of the things, we have that same experience where, especially first-time home buyers, it's such an abstract thing in their heads, in terms of they look at the market and they think, wow, that's expensive.
Yep.
Maybe, love to be able to buy that kind of a house, but they really have no way of translating that. And since it is abstract and largely clouded for them, they feel like they can never get there, And I tell people this. I said, when you meet with me, just be prepared, because I have people come to me and say, we're a year out, and I just and then 3 months later they're in a house. After we've met, because they all of a sudden realize, wow, I can do this.
Yep.
And it's not just that I think they always believe they could do it, but without translating it into something concrete, it's just a lot harder to feel like okay, I'm ready to do this. And so I can see how having that initial meeting with you and really scoping that out, making it less of a big dark box out there, and saying, no, let's talk about what you want and how we can get there and what it would take, and connect you with the with the finance people, the mortgage people. Yep. Yeah, I've had that same experience where time and time again, especially first time home buyers, all of a sudden they go, wow, I can do this, and now they're out motivated and pretty soon they're buyers.
Yep, absolutely. And it comes down to that level of trust, right? Which we've mentioned a few times now, but it's I don't know what it's like for the mortgage industry, but on the realtor side, we're rated lower than used car salesmen in satisfaction ratings and trust levels, and it's like, well, I mean, that's fair, given our industry. The difference between a used car salesman and a realtor is you won't walk out of the door with keys after an hour of talking. So it's like, hey, if you don't like the realtor, if you don't trust them, don't work with them. Right. Just walk out. Yeah. And it can set you up really well if you do find someone who's a good fit. So,
well, at least you guys didn't take the fall for the 2010 crash, like the mortgage brokers did. That was quite a recovery process. But I want to pivot a little bit. We're scripturally, Proverbs 14 says, "Where no oxen are, the trough is clean." But much increase comes through the strength of an ox. And Landon brought that verse into this conversation. I used to love that verse, just when our kids were young. Yeah. We had 5 kids, And I used to think about that a lot, is because our trough was almost never clean. It was, 5 kids, lots of activity.
Yeah.
But much increase comes through, sometimes the messes, the unavoidable messes that come with productive activity. So tell us a little bit about, situations you've had where, you've had to embrace the mess.
Yeah.
And kind of trust that it's productive.
Yeah. No, there's a level where you can plan things out and be intentional with your time.
Yeah.
And a level where you just have to expect chaos and,
Yeah.
and be okay with that.
Yeah.
So we do those calls in the morning, and in the afternoon we usually have empty, and it's just the mess time.
Yeah.
You make a mess in the morning, you
Yeah.
deal with it in the afternoon,
Yeah.
appointments, showings, contracts, all those things. And so I'd say, when you're busy, you're going to need to do evening showings, you're going to need to stretch yourself some, and you have time freedom, but also you have to work for it.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a mess.
Yeah.
The verse I always connect with this one is, he that soweth sparingly shall also reap sparingly. He that soweth bountifully shall also reap bountifully.
Yeah.
There's a trade-off there, and the oxen need to be used for something.
Right.
So putting that to use, being wise with the time you have, and knowing. I mean, my first year, I was more like an 80-an-hour agent, because I knew it was short term.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be messy, and I knew where I wanted to be within 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And so I just embraced that.
Yeah.
But it looks like being willing to prioritize things differently with
Yeah.
time, I'd say, is the big one.
No, that's a great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because it is, when you talk about being intentional with your time, a lot of people might think that 6 o'clock I'm done,
Yeah.
and I never pick up the phone or do anything until 8 o'clock the next morning. But that's not really the way our business works, and so it is really more about being intentional about the overarching structure, so that you are, because I've had the privilege of going to all the soccer games and doing all of those things, because my work was very flexible. But I was also the guy on the phone a lot, looking at the phone a lot and doing doing those sorts of things too. And so I like the fact that it is kind of a both and.
Yeah.
But being intentional about about your why and helps make sure it doesn't spin out of control.
Yeah, and
like that.
sometimes people don't see the mess. They
Yeah.
see you at the soccer games.
Yeah.
They see you doing the fun things.
Right.
But they don't see you working at 8, 9, 10 o'clock when things just need to get done.
Right.
And when you run a business,
Yeah.
any business owner has experienced that.
Yeah.
So, yep, the mess is there.
Yeah. Cole, how's your experience been in terms of time flexibility versus seed sowing, kind of intentionality, kind of how's that?
Yeah, there's wherever there's going to be oxen, wherever the oxen are, they're going to make a mess somewhere. So you can either make the mess and deal with it, like you were saying, and be willing to deal with it whenever you need to. You can set your time aside, but you just have to be willing to. You're going to have to sacrifice somewhere. So it's, for me, it's having my expectations set for what I need to be doing to succeed in this industry. So sometimes that means working in a coffee shop, and that's not always the best place, most productive place to be, but that's where you get to meet people. And coffee shops are central hubs to communities, and so those are great places for me to meet and connect with people, and talk to some story real estate agents, and their goal is to have a certain number of real estate conversations every week. And so those are a great opportunity to have those conversations and just stay top of mind to people. But then just knowing when I need to get away, get to a more productive area, and actually get the work done that from the messes that I've created, with the conversations that I started.
Yeah. Now
Now I need to go and actually do the dirty work, do the hard work, and actually work for these people that I've made connections with. So just knowing the balance between that and being willing to put up with the sacrifices that you need to make.
Yeah, that expectations, that's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
That is huge. We just talking to people who are interested in becoming an agent, someone says, "Oh, I love houses," or I love architecture, and it's like, okay, that's a sliver. That's a sliver. I love talking with people. It's like, you're going to talk to people a lot. There's also a lot of other things that happen, in
how
that
about knocking on doors, and how about dealing with sewage layout and runoff, and understanding that and how that affects a house, and all there's all of that. That's not as glamorous as Better Homes magazines.
Yeah, come look at my major and trough real quick. See if you still want to.
Come smell.
And I love it. There's I'm not saying it's not a good thing, but it's not for everybody.
Right.
You should know what it looks like.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So, what's one principle of work or lesson in general that people on social media should be reminded of? So the question is, people on social media need to be reminded of right now. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Actually, this is pretty easy.
Yeah. You're bailing me out. I'm like, Landon, I need some help.
Yeah. There is so much misinformation about the real estate market. Everyone's an expert. If you have a Google search, you're an expert, right? And so getting connected with people who know what they're talking about, getting connected with a good lender,
right.
And ideally a local lender, because you're gonna they're going to know the particular market best. Cole, you're here in town, and it's like more about Moscow because of it. And so there's a lot of general information about the real estate market just out there, which is true nationally, but there's lots of micro markets, and what's true nationally may not be true locally. And so I just be wary of information there. The second thing is agents sometimes spread misinformation depending on their agenda. So we see listing agents trying to generate leads say, "Oh man, the average price in this town is $800,000. You should come talk to us." And it's like, well, that's how I'm looking at the statistic. I'm like, how did they get that number? Like, they, who knows how they cut that? But they're trying to generate listings, and then all of my buyers get discouraged.
Right.
And it's like, well, talk to someone who's your advocate, not an advocate for the seller, or not an advocate for it can go the other way too, not an advocate for the buyer.
Right.
So get someone who's in your court and get info from them, and not Aunt Maggie on the phone, on Facebook. So.
No, that's a good point. So kind of related to that, maybe what is one of the biggest, most common sources, not sources, but types of misinformation you see out there on social media, say about the real estate market?
Yeah.
What do you see out there that you think, okay, that needs to be corrected, or that's not correct? Or...
Yeah. I can't afford a home.
Yeah.
Is a big one.
Yeah.
And some people can't, but a lot of people can.
Yeah.
And they don't realize it.
Right.
There's no homes on the market. There are. There's been more homes this year than last year at this time.
Yeah.
And they're going fast.
Yeah.
So if you're browsing, you're going to miss them.
Yeah.
But if you're intentional about it, you'll get them.
Yeah.
And so I think just, out of, frustration and fear of being disappointed, people don't even look into it. Yeah. And then they make a decision out of lack of information rather than information.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
What's one of the things? Obviously we know kind of the obvious things you do to prepare your clients to win.
Mm-hmm.
But what are the really vital things that you do to prepare your clients to win? In this very tough market for buyers. It is a tough market for buyers, right?
It is. Yeah.
But there is inventory, like you said. People are buying.
Yep.
So what are you doing to prepare your? What are you to each individual client? What are you saying to them to say you need to be ready to win? One of the things that we see as mortgage guys, is we'll be working with clients, and our obviously our understanding of the market, of the real estate side of the market, is superficial, right? We're not nearly as informed as the agents are, and so we'll look at Redfin, or we'll look at Zillow, or whatever. But I've had clients, and they're with agents, and I know they're struggling to qualify and to afford, and so I know why they're doing this. But they're putting listing price offers on every hot home out there, and they're not even in the conversation.
Yep.
Because these homes are all going for 10, 15, 20% over.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes as a mortgage guy, I'm struggling with saying, I don't want to take food out of anybody's mouth, out of any realtor's mouth, but sometimes I feel like you might need a more aggressive realtor. So what's your thoughts about that? What those are two different questions. Sorry.
No, that's
kind
great.
of piled those on
That's
top
great.
of each
No,
other.
I like it. I boil it all down to just education.
Yeah.
Like, I see that as my primary role.
Yeah.
So in that consultation I was talking about, to prepare buyers, we walk them through the whole process, start to finish, answer every single question we can think of, go through the purchase contract. There will be zero surprises. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Zero surprises. When you go under contract, the question isn't what's next. It's okay. We're getting to work now. You know, we know what's upcoming. We know what to do, and that just alleviates a lot of fear. And usually after that, the response is, "Wow, that's so much simpler than I thought it would be."
Yeah.
And I understand it so much better.
Yeah.
And so, getting that education first off on just building confidence with the buyers in this tough market. The second on the competition side is understanding how homes are priced. A listing price is completely arbitrary, right? The seller just threw a number out there. Good agents will price it, strategically, but a lot of the time people are just putting a number out and seeing what happens. That does not dictate the price of a home.
Right.
It could be $20,000 too high. It could be $50,000 too low. What dictates a home value is the desire for it, right? The demand for it. And so what we do is, once I know what a buyer's looking for, to prepare them, we look at past sales. Not what's on the market right now, not the arbitrary numbers, but what are homes actually selling for, based on that yard you want, the 3-bedroom, and the price point you're comfortable with. And once we look at that, they know, okay, when this home comes on the market, similar to the one that sold 3 weeks ago, we'd like to have it. Yeah. And if it's priced $50K under this, we know it will probably get up to this level.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
Hey, we need to bring it down. Even in this market, homes can be overpriced, and they often are.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier with setting expectations, and just at the beginning of the initial consultation, saying, if you want to get in a house, then you're probably going to have to go 50 or 60,000. I mean, depending on the neighborhood. If you're in Woodinville in the Seattle area, you're probably going to have to go 100 to 200 to 300,000 over asking price. Here, probably, I don't know, it probably varies, but just getting borrowers on board with that is important, because if they're not, then you're just going to be wasting everybody's time making an offer at list price and then discouraging them in the meantime.
Yep, absolutely. And it takes that intentionality. You can go on autopilot and just start throwing money at it. Mm-hmm. But in the last year, I've put in an offer, 100,000 over asking price, rejected. Right?
Yeah.
Put in an offer $30K under, and it's accepted.
Yeah.
It really,
it
really is that education expectation thing. It's
huge. Local market knowledge is huge.
And micro markets, like you talked about, which I wanted to ask, what are a couple different micro markets in Moscow here? Like, is it dependent on street or neighborhoods?
Yeah.
Or geological? You mentioned a certain street is on a runoff, like runoff is an issue. Mm-hmm. And so are there different micro markets like that around here? Yeah.
I'd say two big factors for within Moscow city limits. Make that three. I just thought of a third one. Three big things would be developments that are upcoming. So maybe there's a really desirable neighborhood going in, and that's going to improve your value. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's about to destroy your view. Those are big factors. Another one is just zoning. Generally, can you have a big apartment built right next to you? Because with the city developing more and more, that's a really big factor.
Could be a concern.
And the third one I already forgot, but it was good. It was good. So if I bring it back,
Landon can edit it back in and make it look
like
you didn't forget.
Well, here's number 3. I actually just thought of it.
There we go.
Number 3 would be just proximity to downtown. So, and this surprises people like me who grew up in the Seattle area. 30 minutes drive anywhere, period.
Right.
That's just what's happening. Here, if you want to do a 15-minute commute, as locals call it, out Troy, Genesee, Viola, just these little towns, your home could be $50,000 to $100,000 cheaper.
Yeah.
Just because of that. So don't be comparing those two homes, because they're really different in this area. Yeah. And that's just not true of other larger cities. So.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So, question about appraisal. Tell us about, has that been a challenge at all as you've entered into this kind of hyper seller's market that we've been in for a while, and obviously bidding prices up? What's that been like in this particular market area?
Yeah, in this market, over the last 2 years, it really hasn't been too much of an issue.
Yeah.
Because we're a smaller market, I think the appraisers know to reach out to us and say, hey, give me your comps. How did you get to the price of the home? And we're able to provide those to them, and give them kind of a case of this is why we think we're not overpaying.
Right.
So here you go. So I've never had any deal appraisal low.
Yeah.
That being said, usually this time of year is when we will see low appraisals if things don't come in, because
spring.
It's the start of the spring.
Yeah.
The home prices are going up because of the demand, but we don't have them closed yet, so you can't use them as comparables, right? Because they can't look at what's on the market, they have to look at what's closed.
Right.
So you're looking at winter prices for the spring market. So we've had more appraisals come in low recently.
Yeah.
And so there's ways to navigate that.
Yeah.
Not as big of an issue here as other places, because appraisers are happy to connect with us, and we have relationships with them.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. That's really great.
Yeah.
What's one unique thing you do on a regular basis that helps you excel at your work?
I'd say focus.
Yeah.
Just the lead generation I was talking about, being on the phones with people on a weekly basis, daily basis. It's easy when you get busy to say, I don't have time for that anymore. But that's what started either you getting the buyers to work with, or the homes for those buyers to purchase.
Yeah.
You're serving them at the highest level by remaining focused on that. Yeah. So we keep each other accountable for that. That's the main thing we look at. Main metric is, Cole, you mentioned it, conversations. We have a number of real estate conversations we want to have with people in order to provide homes for buyers in this market. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Super good. Well, we're going to start to bring this in for a landing. So tell us about Cole. Cole said you're a reader. Don't you like to read books?
Yep, I do.
So what's one book you've read in the last year that you would recommend?
Yeah, if I can stretch that a little bit to be a little longer than a year.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, based on just what we've talked about,
I
think The One Thing by Gary Keller is a huge one.
And he's Gary Keller of Keller Williams.
Of Keller Williams, He's one of the two people who started Keller Williams.
Yeah.
Largest brokerage, 300,000 agents. He knows what he's talking about. So it's a really good book. It's not agent specific whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's more development and focus.
Yeah.
So kind of the core principle is you chase two rabbits, you won't catch either one.
Yeah.
So it's the level of what's the one thing you can do to make everything else easier in your life or unnecessary. And for our business, that's those phone calls in the morning. That's our one thing. And for everyone, it's going to be a little different. But it's a great book about time management, focusing on what's important, being present with where you're at. So that's
very cool.
Highly recommended. Yeah.
Okay, this one isn't on the list, but so do you ever just read for fun? And what do you read for fun?
Yeah, I do read for fun. I'm actually I have an Audible subscription that I try to keep solely to fun books. Yep. So right now I'm working through Treasure Island.
Oh, nice.
Which is a fun one. So we're turning to that. C.S. Lewis. I love C.S. Lewis. So
like
fiction.
Chronicles of Narnia or
Space Trilogy.
I love Space Trilogy.
Yeah.
When do you find the time to listen to books?
Yeah. So
he lives in Potlatch.
15
minutes every day.
No. Unfortunately, about 2 minutes from the office.
So
I don't have that.
It doesn't really work.
No, it's really, and I think the one thing talks about this is anything you want to do is on your calendar. For when you can have the flexibility we have, you need to add some rigidity to your life to do the things that's important. So I literally have reading time on my calendar before bed. So and I'll get up in the mornings too and do some reading. So
do you do it in bed or do you sit down at a chair?
I'll sit down in a chair. I'll get half a page.
Yeah, I know, that's kind of late.
And you're listening too, so you're just going to lie down in your bed.
Yep.
It's not gonna
that's a mistake I made. Too much of my reading is in bed. It's like read a chapter and then go back to 2 pages in and read it again because I slept through the last part. So outside of biblical characters, who's the most influential figure in your life?
Influential figure. I mean, my parents, my dad, I suppose, is probably the biggest. He did a great job of adding structure and stability to our life.
awesome.
And that's something I want to model for sure. So
did he do sales, or what was his vocation?
He was doing something very different than what
Yeah,
I'm doing.
yeah.
So yeah, he worked for Boeing,
Yeah.
doing software engineering
Yeah.
work for the military defense
Great.
department.
Yeah.
So, but it was, he had a lot going on, a lot of extracurricular things he was doing outside of work. But every day he was home for meals.
Yeah.
Like clockwork, same time.
Yeah.
Very focused on that structure, and was hugely valuable to me growing up, and just added a baseline of stability, which I wasn't aware of at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But has had a huge impact on me.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And last question: if we record another video a year from now, what updates do you expect to have? Life, work.
Yeah. It is a
Nothing
buyer's
secret.
market.
Nothing secret. I'm not asking for real secrets.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Yeah. I would say we've, potentially doubled the number of buyers that we're working with on a yearly basis, as far as, they're enclosed homes. So we're serving more people, helping more people build their legacies externally, and then internally, we've doubled the number of buyer agents we have in order to meet that capacity. So those are the two big things. I think we have the systems and ability to help a lot of people, but we need more agents to make that happen.
Yeah. So doubling, how many do you have now?
We have 5 buyers agents right now.
So you want to get to 10
minimum.
Yeah. And you want to, that's by the end of calendar 2022 is your goal?
Yeah, I would say really about a year from now.
Oh, year from now. So actually 12 months. Good.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yep, absolutely. So
very good. Well, forgot to do this at the beginning. I'm just going to close this in prayer. We'll have it on the video. Landon, you do what you want with it.
Yeah.
But, thanks for Jordan, for Cole, for the opportunity to sit here and talk.